Welcome to the Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership Podcast. Subscribe now so you don't miss a drop of straight talk you can't get anywhere else. We discuss the whiskeys to drink, music to listen to, and what it really takes to be an effective leader. I'm your host, Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist. Tonight's guest, best-selling author and Global Hall of Fame keynote speaker, Simon T. Bailey. Hey, what you drinking? There are moments where you feel your life coming full circle. And if you are fortunate, if you are focused, if you are aware, then you are able to pay attention in those moments. I'm going to give you fair warning. This is going to be one of those moments for me. Because I am bringing to the show a bona fide legend in the speaking space. And this guy not only is a legend, anyone who calls himself a professional speaker will pay homage to this guy. But there's a personal connection for me that I'm going to bring into this conversation. Enough prelude. Man, heart, calm down, heart. Simon T. Bailey, welcome to Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. How you doing, my man?
Galen, good to be with you. We finally did it. Here we are.
Oh my gosh.
The virtual man cave.
Oh, I have so wanted to have this conversation with you since launching this podcast in 2021. And after we got a few seasons under our belt and clocked in a couple of awards, I thought now might be the time. Now might be the time. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I got to ask you about your background. I got to talk about how we connected initially. But the first question and the most important question: what you drinking?
I would be totally boring. I just had a glass of water.
That's okay, man. Hey, professionals have to stay ready. They have to stay ready. And that just means that I've got to make sure that I fulfill the integrity of the brand of the podcast. And I give a lot of thought to the whiskeys that I bring for this conversation. So for this one, because of kind of what you have meant to me in this thought leadership space, I reached for something that was the first big boy whiskey that I reached for. I was working in corporate America. I happened to be working in Kentucky. That was part of my geography. And I had a pretty good day with my client. So on the way back home, I said, well, let me get something that represents this moment for me. Went into a liquor store, didn't really know what I was looking for, but I looked on the shelf, and behind a locked glass, so there was a locked glass. I had to get someone with a key. I saw this box, and the whiskey was inside a separate box inside of the lock key, and this box had a little glass door on it. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I need to get that. That's what it is. And so this is Booker's. This happens to be the Master Distillers batch. This is the 2024 version. Because it's been a while since that day back in 2015, but this is coming in at 130 proof. So this is grown boy stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out, and got my glass here, and go ahead and crack this open. Go ahead and pour me just a little bit of this, and oh man, yeah, the memories. Man, everything that I do, I mentioned before, I seem to enjoy the caramel. So everything that I do has notes of caramel in it. This one's got a little dried fruit in it. So I'm gonna sit and enjoy this and just remember that time in Kentucky. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about your background and what's gotten you to this point where you've got the leadership strategist just gushing over this conversation, because when you and I met, you were already one of the key players in the speaking industry, and I was just thinking about leaving corporate America, and I started, trying to talk to some people who did this thing at the highest level, and I took some masterclass sessions with some other well-regarded professional speakers, and one professional speaker said, Galen, yeah, you got some passion for this stuff, and I appreciate, how much attention you paid in my class, but I'm an older white lady, and unless you're trying to learn how to speak like an older white lady, you need to find someone who's kind of got the energy, the space that you're trying to fill, that you kind of admire their style, and you need to get some advice from them. And I said, well, hey, there's a couple of names, but I don't know how to get a hold of them. And I mentioned your name, and she said, well, here's his number. Give him a call. And I gave you a call, was, and I had a well crafted message that I was going to leave on your voicemail. I mean, the message was incredibly well crafted, and then you answered the phone. It's like you answered the phone, and we had such a great conversation. And oh my gosh, you just saved me so much time, energy, and wondering about what this is. Talk a little bit about your background and what has brought you to the point where you are literally a Hall of Fame member of this professional speaking business.
So, little my backstory. Grew up in Buffalo, New York. Go Bills! This is our year, and parents dropped me off at Morehouse College at the end of my freshman year. They called and said, "We don't have the money to send you back to Morehouse, nor do we have money to bring you back to Buffalo, but we do love you." And so, dropped out of Morehouse, moved into a drug-infested community, southwest part of Atlanta, Georgia. I was on public transportation. It's probably one of the lowest points in my life at 19 years of age. I eventually did go back to school. I was just on the 10-year plan. And my parents said, "It took you 10 years to finish your degree." I said, "Because you didn't pay, but I do love you." Then fast forwarding, moved to Orlando, Florida. Hyatt Hotels transferred me here. And after working for Hyatt, work for Visit Orlando, and then joined Disney. 7 amazing years at Disney, and something that a lot of people don't know because they're like, "Why did I leave Disney?" So I got a call from a journalist. And whenever you work at Disney, Galen, you never talk to the media unless authorized. And the journalist said, "Where do you see yourself 10 to 15 years from now?" And I said, "I see myself as the president and CEO of the Walt Disney World Resort, and eventually the chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Michael Eisner move over," and he puts us in print. So the article comes out, page 12, Florida Business Trend Magazine, February 2002. And my boss called me in the office and he's like, "Help me. What were you thinking when you did this interview?" Because the article comes out full page, my picture with the Mickey Mouse topiary behind me, and all this copy saying, "I'm the man." So HR shows up as we sign a piece of paper at one of my personal file. True story, no embellishment. I got a call from one of the senior vice presidents, a guy named Jim Lewis. And Jim was my executive sponsor, mentor at the time. And he said, "Simon, do you need me to go to the president on your behalf? Because this is really bad." And the president at the time was a great guy named Al Weiss. And I said, "No, no, don't go to Al." So you kind of see where this is going. Let's just say Disney didn't fire me that day. But about a year later, I heard the footsteps coming and they were not singing. It's a small world after all.
It was about to get smaller. It was about to get smaller.
Nice guy. So I said, "You know what? It's probably in my best interest if I leave Disney." But before then, I had about a year runway before I knew I needed to get out of Dodge. So I floated my resume out, got two vice president's offers, going work for smaller organizations, an internal move at Disney. One of the senior VPs felt sorry for me. He's like, we'll just bury you in this organization, let this blow over. And then a senior director position with FlexJet, which runs Learjet, and they wanted me to be senior director for customer care for Learjet owners in the world. And I decided to turn all four of the jobs down and throw caution to the wind and totally went for it. So cashed in my entire 401k with significant Disney stock, took out a line of credit on the house. My mother of my children, my wife, she didn't work at the time and totally went for it. And since that time, we have worked with almost 2,500 organizations in 55 countries. And I simply do one thing. I work with leaders and empower them to lead well.
Hmm.
That's it. And I get to do it every single day. And here's the truth, Galen, it still feels like day one. 22 years later, it still feels like day one.
I tell you, I want to talk to you about that because you're all over social media. You're all over YouTube. If I have missed any of your videos, it's really not my fault because I tried. I mean, I really did try. But about a month and a half ago, I had an engagement working with a client on behalf of the Executive Leadership Council. Galen, here's what we want you to do. Here's the group. Here's the, opportunity to talk with them and get ready and you go to this place and you're going to be there. And I said, okay, great. There's a full agenda. And I looked down on the agenda and the keynote is Simon T. Bailey. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was my first time to actually see you work live. And although the videos are nicely produced, they're not the same. So talk a little bit about how did you get to the point where you were convinced that this was what you were built to do?
In 1999, Disney sent me to Paris to design a leadership program for 1,000 leaders out of Barclays Bank out of London. And they had come to Disneyland Paris to learn how did Disney do it. And Lion King had just come out, so I was drawing comparisons between some of the leadership lessons in Lion King. And Galen, God's honest truth, I'm on stage, 1,000 leaders. Now I had designed the program and now I'm delivering it along with our team. And I hit this moment where I'm like, remember who you are. You are more than what you have become, which is obviously the famous line from the movie. And people came up to me afterward and they're like, who are you? What's your story? We had goosebumps the entire time you were talking. It's not from the air condition. What's up? And I went back to my hotel room that night in Paris and I asked myself three questions. Number one, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Number two, what would I do if no one paid me to do it?
Mm.
And that third question, which is from the great philosopher Howard Thurman, is don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive. Because what
Mm.
the world needs are people who come alive.
Wow.
And when I answered those questions, it was like the 4th of July fireworks went off in me. And I'm like, I want to speak, I want to write, I want to train, I want to consult. I'm not staying here at Disney. It's been fun, but I got to go. And so when I got back to Orlando from Paris, I started putting an exit strategy in place, but I didn't realize what was an accidental on purpose mistake of saying I wanted to be the number one guy became the catalyst for what I had experienced in Paris to becoming a reality. So that's where it started.
Wow. I mean that is quite the story. And I can only be nervous for you because I can only imagine that there is a big difference between having this moment of clarity and actually explaining to your wife, hey, look, this is my idea. This is what I'm going to do. So talk to me a little bit about the courage and how do you summon the courage to have that conversation, or do you just do it without courage?
You know what? I think it's a combination of both, but I think what really gave me courage to make the move, she said to me, whatever you decide to do, I'm with you. Now, mind you, when I was taking the leap, we had two children, 4 years of age. No, one was, yeah, Daniel was four, Madison was 18 months old. Country was going to war with Iraq for the second time. Corporations were laying off by the hundreds of thousands, right? 2003, not an ideal time to launch out and say, hey, I'm going to put out my flag. I'm a consultant. I'm a coach. I'm all these wonderful things, right? And she didn't work outside the home. And I knew that I had a mortgage to pay and I had
Yeah.
some papers to buy, on and on. But when she said, I'm with you, I said, okay, I'm going to go for it. And what I really sized it up, what's the worst that could happen? If I had about a 3 year runway with everything that I had saved and invested. So I said, if it doesn't work in 3 years, I'm just going to go crawling back to Disney saying, hey, I need my job back or go to Universal. So but I decided not to have a plan B so that I could stay focused on plan A. And that courage got me up every morning between 4 and 5 a.m. to say, let's go. Let's go.
Wow. Well, you're starting to get into what I like to ask all of my guests to help me define. And the smarter the guest, the more I lean on them to help with this definition. And that is the meaning behind the name of this daggum podcast. I pulled all three together because I like all three literally. I like whiskey, I like jazz, I like leadership. It's almost embarrassing and it's starting to get expensive how much I like all three literally. But I also like the metaphor. And, my metaphor is, whiskey is the social element of doing what you enjoy with the folks you enjoyed with, regardless of what outsiders might have to say about it, because it's not their thing. The metaphor of jazz is using your skill, using your improvisational skills, using your training, using duct tape, super glue, whatever you need to get from where you are to where you need to be on time and in key. And then leadership for me, the metaphor is at some point we got to stop talking and we got to do something. And so it's the action part of it, and that's what it means to me. But what I'm interested in is, does that metaphor fit what your career has been, what your life has been, or does this only make sense in Galen's head with his mom endorsing?
No, it totally makes sense. Totally in alignment with my journey for sure.
So tell me, how does that fit? How does whiskey, jazz, and leadership? How do you see that fitting with your career?
So, the first thing I would say, what I've discovered is when we hear about leadership, the first person we lead into the future is ourself.
Mm.
So, we have to really look in the mirror and say, how am I showing up as an individual? Number one. Number two, the job of a leader, once you have the role, the title, the position, people are now following you. You have P&L responsibility. There is a weight on you.
Mm.
What you quickly discover is the job of a leader is not to motivate people to work harder. The job of a leader is to invite people on a journey to discover the leader within themselves while they're following you.
Wait, hold up. You need to say that. You need to say that again. You need to say that one more time.
The real purpose of leadership is not to motivate and drive people as we often have heard and have been taught. Drive and work harder, do more. No, that's not it. The job of a leader is to invite people on a journey
Mm.
to discover the leader within themselves while they're following you. So a leader can never take a person to a place that they have not been themselves.
Mhm.
So that leader has walked that journey. That leader has had almost death by a thousand cuts. That leader has had moments of going through transformation, change, all of the buzzwords that we hear, and even the night of the dark soul. That leader, there are many leaders. I don't know if you saw that latest research that says 19 CEOs died within the last year because of mental health burnout. So leaders who have gone through something, they come back from a place of humility and compassion to say, it's not about me, it's about we. I can't do this without you, but how do I come alongside you in my humanity to invite you to join me on a journey, and we don't know how it's going to go, but you just got to trust the process.
I love it. I love it. You know, there are a lot of authors who have made the distinction between management and leadership, and I love the way Ken Blanchard said that there really is. I mean, you can't have management without leadership. You can't have leadership without management. So there is a difference, but it's almost irrelevant. However, I have often said, and I want to run this by you because I'm very proud of my two books that are out there, but you got 11 under your belt. You know, you got you. I mean, you've been doing this for a bit, and one of the things that I try to articulate in the book that I published in 2017 is that leaders have three priorities. The first priority is to paint a very clear picture of what success and what winning looks like. Paint a very clear picture of what it looks like when we get to the promised land. Number two is to identify and remove barriers that might get in the way of realizing that picture. You got to look down the road and say, John doesn't know it yet, but in about 6 months, he's going to hit this barrier. So I got 6 months to start working on how do I help him get around that barrier. And then the third priority is to keep people inspired to want to pursue that vision. Because although the vision is very clear to me, largely because I probably created the vision, it's not going to be very clear to John. And John's got his own life. He's got his own stuff. And I've got to consistently remind him that his vision, his dreams become possible when we deliver against this vision that we've created, and that becomes the priorities of a leader. Help put some structure around these ideas I've been kicking around for a bit.
I love it when you say that leader provides that clear picture. Pat Massetti, a friend of mine in Australia, says if it's foggy in here, it's cloudy out here. And for those that are listening to us on this podcast, I'm pointing to my head. If it's cloudy in the head, it's going to be foggy outside of you. And I think that's so critically important. But I really want to drop a pin in that third one, where if you went to dictionary.com and typed in the word inspire, one of the entries that would pop up would say to breathe life into.
Mm.
So before you can invite a person to drive more innovation, increase revenue, drive down costs, we have to breathe life into them. And that is based on where they are going, not where we want to take them. All right. Now let's just unpack that because this ties to your great work. So we have been taught, and we know from leadership and running organizations, that you want to get talent and hold on to talent as long as possible. And I'm going to be a little contrarian and say the job of a company and business is to train people so well that they leave you,
Mhm.
that they leave you. So, in other words, stop recruiting and understand the power of catch and release. Why? Really good, they will stay. So it's counterintuitive when an inspired person is treated well, they become an entrepreneur and find ways to move beyond a job, which stands for just overboard, to create opportunities for themselves because a paycheck is given to people who show up, but opportunities are given to individuals who think and work beyond what they paid to do because they look around the corner to see what's not yet. That's working from an inspired place, not just,
Yes.
I got to punch the clock and go work for this guy, work for the man.
I love that. I love that. I've said to clients that people follow for their reasons, not for yours. And if people follow for their reasons, and my job is to inspire them, the first thing, and possibly the most important thing I got to do is find out why in the world are they following? Why do they want to follow? I've got to find out what's going to get John excited about this thing. And hopefully it's something more than just a paycheck. Typically it's I get this paycheck because I'm hoping to send my daughter to college, right? And that college inspiration, that becomes the inspiration that if I'm a wise leader, that's what I'm going to lean on to help inspire and keep John inspired, because they follow for their reasons, not for yours. That makes leadership challenging. That means I can't manage, because you manage projects, you lead people. I've got to actually get to know my people, and that gets hard when you've. Well, let me say it differently. It's relatively easy if you've got a small organization, right? If I've got five, if I've got 10, maybe if I've got 15 people in my organization, I can build a personal relationship to where I can know what inspires each of those people. How do you do it when you're working for an organization the size and scope of a Disney, or of a Wells Fargo, or of a PNC Bank, when you've got there is no way you can have a personal relationship with everyone in their organization, but still, as the leader, your challenge is to keep them inspired.
I think one of the first things you have to do is make moments count whenever you are virtually connecting, in person connecting, making that moment count for that person where they feel like they are the most important person in the world. Modeling that for your direct reports. Obviously, they're leaders of leaders. So modeling for them just in a nanosecond, you are important. Daniel Kahneman says that there are 19,200 daily moments. So taking those micro moments in our responses, our emails, our meetings,
Mhm.
where we just point out something and say, you know, here's what I really appreciate about you. That is like the handwritten note on the heart of a person that they will never ever forget. So the first thing is making micro moments count. I think the second thing is showing up in your humanity.
Mm.
With and now, obviously, in many organizations, there's the need to know, nice to know. But when you are sharing, letting people see that human side of you, where that vulnerability, and it's not, oh, cry me a river, don't cry for me, Argentina. You're putting everything else in your sleeve. Leaders never cry down, they always cry up. No, 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 no. Is there a place to just show them where I don't know what I don't know,
Mm.
but I am figuring it out? And what that says to a person is that you're just not making stuff up. You're trusted
Yes.
because they watch how you deal with certain situations. And I think probably the other thing is, as often as leaders have the opportunity, recognize what people are doing right instead of what's going wrong. Research says 1 minute of recognition creates 100 minutes of initiative. And
Mhm.
if you can model from wherever you sit, let's recognize, what did we learn, unlearn, relearn, and here's why we are recognizing this. It informs a person that whenever they are called to the principal's office, they're not going to be beat up, or if they receive feedback from another leader, not from you, the senior leader, they're like, okay, this is how it's supposed to happen. John Maxwell says that leadership is caught and leadership is taught. What are people catching from you as you show up as a leader?
Yo, that was just part one. Subscribe now so you get part two as soon as it is released. Or better, become a VIP so you don't have to wait. Cheers.